Welcome into another Inside Carolina postgame. I'm Tommy Ashley. We are sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt and Congruity. That is Dewey Burke. Carolina 76, UCLA 74. Dewey, it wasn't pretty. It was ugly at times. Bottom line is Carolina finally found a way to win one of these games, getting one against UCLA. Your opening thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is I'm happy for the kids. There's nothing worse than losing the last game before Christmas. We've talked about it on this podcast before. My junior year, we flew all the way to LA and lost before Christmas, and it's just about the worst. So I'm happy for the kids and the staff to go into Christmas break with a win. Ugly as could be. I thought, especially in the first half, we just made brutal mental errors, stepping out of bounds 3 times. Simple communication errors on pick and roll, allowing for layups. Wasn't a lot to point to, but we hung in there. We fought. Obviously, Ian got going, which was great to see. And look, UCLA did us some favors as well, missing free throws, and obviously the big getting in foul trouble was impactful. At least we fought and somehow found a way. It unfortunately felt a lot like many of the other games, and you just were worried you're going to lose it at the end again. But credit to RJ for making 3 out of 4, and Drake Powell with a man's rebound there at the end for sure. This team has a long way to go, a lot to work on, but it tastes a little better going into Christmas with a win.
Absolutely. UCLA, the last 342 without a basket. That has sounded familiar the other way around. And Carolina led for a whopping 50 seconds out of the entire ball game. Dewey, when you look at this, let's sort of start from the beginning again. I've yet to understand why it takes this team getting down before they start playing, and then they play in stretches. Way back after the Kansas game, I entitled that show What Carolina Can Be, and that was the second half of that Kansas game. What is going on that this team just cannot figure it out to start playing before they're just – I mean, it feels like, okay, boys, until we're in the hole, we're not going to start digging or start trying to climb out of it. What do you see? Have you seen anything night in and night out that's put them in this position? Like you said, they fight, and that's great, but – sometimes fighting from in front probably be pretty good around there.
Yeah, just poor play. The first half was poor play, mental errors, poor defensive communication. How do you step on the sideline 3 times in a half? That's lack of court awareness. I thought in the second half, our ball movement was a little bit better. We still have a lot of times where we're pounding it and we call for a ball screen, but at least with the floppy set and running RJ and Ian off of the double baselines, we were getting a little bit more movement, which I thought was a good adjustment. But, oh man, just a brutally sloppy game. Also, 700 fouls called in the second half. The stripes had an impact on the flow of that game. It wasn't just that we were playing ugly and they started to. But I thought, back to your question about the start, I thought we were bad defensively, bunch of miscommunication on switches, going under screens, and just careless on the offensive end. And your point guard's got to take better care of the basketball. I'm tired of watching him put the ball in jeopardy when he's got to be the one that's taking care of it the most, right? Your job on the offensive end is just get a shot. And your point guard's turned the ball over too much, and he can't be a liability. I'm frustrated with how he's playing because he has the ball in his hand so much. Now, credit him for stepping up and making a big 3, and he did. But he can't be a liability on that end of the floor. He cannot.
Yeah, Elliot Cadeau, 5 assists, 5 turnovers in 28 minutes. He scored 8 points. Let's talk about him a little bit because, of course, it's hard to know what goes on in somebody's head. But the way he's so expressive when he plays, I think the team sort of takes on his mindset sometimes. When things are going well, it's all smiles and happiness and all that. But then you see something go sideways, and it goes sideways in a hurry. Dewey, how do you deal with that as a teammate of guys on the court? I mean, is it positive reinforcement the whole time? Is it keep your head up? I mean, this is not something that's new either. Elliott is a immensely talented young man,
No question.
but he lives and dies every single play. And
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that's a way to be, especially in college basketball. I mean, that's just tough way to do it, don't you think?
Yeah, it is, and I'm also the flopping and the history on like. Can we just stop? Can we just play harder and take care of the ball? That's the way you get your teammates to follow you. Um, I'm tired of all the activity, post call and trying to buy stuff and like just play. You're uber talented. You're so quick. You're very strong. You're good when you get to the rim. When you're under control, your vision is fantastic. Like, can we just stop with the stuff? That's my biggest frustration is there's too much stuff. Just play. Just play. And then I think then people will follow him. It's almost like if he had RJ stoicism and would just go play, we'd be better off, right? Because RJ just plays, right? You don't get a lot emotionally out of him. He's just playing. He's still struggling a little bit. But my gosh, I'm tired of that. And he's got a guy sitting next to him on the bench in Marcus Page. All that kid did was just play. He didn't talk. He didn't whine. He just played. And I wish that's what Elliott would do because he has so much ability that gets kind of lost in this mess that he creates. And I wish he would just stop.
Yeah, and to his credit, he does get beat to death, and he gets called. I think the refs, to your point, I think referees are human beings, and he doesn't get some of the calls that maybe he gets called against him because of some of that stuff. I don't know. Who knows what happened? But yeah, to your point, if he can figure it out, the mental side of the game, then he can really be the guy for this team. And we talk a lot about how RJ doesn't talk, doesn't do this, to do that. But that's a great point you make. Is he just plays and does his thing, and it pays off for the most part. It has for RJ for a long time. We're talking with Dewey Burke with Inside Carolina's postgame show. Johnny T-shirt and Congruity. Remember those folks; they're sponsors. If you don't have Johnny T-shirt stuff under your Christmas tree, you're not doing it right. And Matt at congruityhr.com for your business needs. Ian Jackson, Dewey. All right. He had 32 minutes tonight. It's good to see New York guys doing New York things. But it's time that he starts. It's time that he's on the floor as much as he can handle. I still think they got away from him late. But what'd you see from him, and what do you continue to see on his growth?
Yeah, look, a willing shooter and scorer and trying to make plays, trying to make things happen when we're desperate for any kind of creativity on the offensive end. And there's so many perimeter east-west passes versus guys getting downhill that he shows the ability to be aggressive and hunt his own. And candidly, there were a couple times when I thought he could have forced a couple more shots. But we struggle. We struggle to get quality looks that if you're going to get a contested shot, it might as well come from your best natural scorer, and he is that. So I thought he could have hunted his own some more, but he's still figuring it out. But I thought he showed some toughness, and the difference between him and RJ is that he's bigger. It's tough for RJ to get his shot off against a lot of high major talent. They had some length, and it's hard for him to get it off, whereas Ian's going to be able to do that. But look, he showed you 3-level scoring today, right? Made some threes, got to the rim in transition, and made some mid-range shots, obviously, highlighted by the step back there in the second half. So, the starting thing, sure, he should start, or it doesn't. He just needs to play a lot. The starting thing doesn't make a big difference to me. Finishing the game probably matters more. But I think he's got to continue to be uber aggressive on the offensive end and hunt shots because, look, you look down, we had 18 turnovers. We only had 11 assists. So yeah, he's got to be willing, not to, the Caleb Love level, but he's got to be willing to take some tough contested ones because he's one of the only guys that's going to have the ability to make them.
Yeah, and he's to your point, he's one of the only guys that can create and have some success. We saw RJ, we saw Cadeau have trouble with their length. Let me ask you about the bigs, and we're not going to do a really long show here because it's Saturday night and there's some football games on that folks are watching. But shout out to the almost 500 people that are here. Let's talk about the big men. I'm tired of hearing about how NIL is why Carolina doesn't have serviceable bigs when every team Carolina plays seems to have a ton of serviceable bigs. But let me ask you the question about this. People say, well, they don't need them because they out-rebounded UCLA. My thing is watching the defensive side. We can talk about the offensive side with Carolina's bigs, and we can. But on defense, Dewey, Washington, Withers, Claude, I thought, gave some effort. Lubin really wasn't a factor today, which was surprising. What can Carolina do? What can Hubert Davis do to sort of incorporate these guys a little more and maybe get some more success from them?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you're not getting a lot. I thought Washington was trying late. He wanted to play hard and was giving effort, but when you increase your effort level and then all you do is foul, well, that's not helpful. He's the only one with actual size that could be impactful. I know Withers is tall, but he doesn't play big enough in my mind, and his mental errors, I struggle with him being on the floor. I really do. And then, Lubin and Claude are just too small. So look, it's slim pickings. I still believe that Washington ultimately should be your best bet. But I mean, when did he check in the second half? I mean, I think he sat, it felt like the first 13 or 14 minutes. So he went from being our starter, who we were hopeful would be an impactful piece all year, to being the third big or fourth big that came into the game in the second half. So, yeah, I don't know. But there's maybe James Brown. I see the thread. I see you guys. Yeah, maybe. I haven't seen enough of him, and he's practicing every day. And so if he was practicing well enough to earn minutes, he would probably earn minutes. Maybe give the kid a shot. I don't know, but it's really frustrating to feel overmatched every night in the paint, and that's how it feels.
Yeah, Carolina got 3 baskets from their forwards and centers, power forwards and centers. When was the last time that Carolina basketball ever did that and won a game? It's insane the way it's changed. Anything left, Dewey, to talk about here? You mentioned going into Christmas break with something positive. Carolina's done that. UCLA certainly contributed, but it doesn't matter. It ultimately matters in the scoreboard. Carolina wins 76-74. What are some other thoughts before we get out of here? What is it, 7-5 now going into Christmas? It's not good, but they had to have this game. We talked about the season on the brink, saving the season tonight. Carolina's done that a little bit. The schedule softens before the ACC heats up. Overall thoughts getting out of here, heading into the break.
Yeah, look, we were just tough on the bigs and tough on Jalen, but give him credit for the offensive rebound and the putback. That was a monster bucket with 90 seconds to go. Give credit to Seth for the really tough athletic finish at the rim there, which I think cut it to 1, right? So we made some plays down the stretch, and they helped us missing some free throws, but we also got a couple stops. So you're reaching for positives like that. As I said earlier, Cadeau hit a big 3 when we made our run. Maybe that gives him a little boost of confidence. But we're not playing or executing at the level that any of us are used to. But I don't even think we're close to executing at the level that these players are capable of, right? We are underperforming, even with the fact that we all understand that from a roster construction perspective, we lack some athleticism, we lack length, and we lack pure size in the post. I mean, it was amazing to watch UCLA bring that third big in off the bench, and he was like a 6'11" monster who caught 2 alley-oops way above the rim, supremely athletic. We just don't have anything like that, but we are who we are. And so given who we are, we still need to perform at a better level than they are currently. This team has a higher ceiling than they're demonstrating. So hopefully finally getting a big win. It's really fun to play in New York and really fun to win at the Garden. Hopefully a little confidence and, go home, take a couple days and come back with a little bit more attentiveness to the way we need to play, because the margin for error is so thin, right? We just don't have the fortune of uber talent to roll out there. And I mean, you remember, Tommy, like 08, 09, those guys, look.
You could cruise the wins.
Look, they had nights where they didn't really guard as much as they should. They just look, hey, we're going to score 95. So as long as you don't score 96, we got this. And we're just not that, right? And so the margin for error is much smaller. So therefore, their attentiveness, their commitment to what they're being coached, and I understand all the criticism of the head coach and the staff. I get it. Some of it is warranted, no question. I understand. However, when I watch us play in the first half and we can't guard a pick and roll, and we can't figure out a simple floppy down screen and communicate and give up a layup, don't tell me that's on the coach. Okay. I get it. Look, I see everything. Everybody's calling me on the phone too. I understand, but it's not on Hubert if we can't guard a pick and roll. It's not, right? So the players have some ownership in this. The staff does as well. And so hopefully we come back after Christmas and can get on a roll.
Yep, the tape does not lie. And if Carolina would just watch themselves and see what they do well, find it, do it all the time. And to your point, the players got to play. Use the energy when the ball goes in the basket. Have that same energy that you have then when it's not going in the basket, and a lot more success will follow. Carolina wins 76-74. That's Dewey, Burke. I'm Tommy Ashley, Johnny T-shirt and congruity. Everybody have a safe and fun Christmas. We'll be back after that for the Campbell game. Stay tuned to Inside Carolina for a lot of football news. I mean, I was getting texts from Inside Carolina during the game. So join up on Inside Carolina Premium. Join up and get all that. Everybody stay safe. Thanks, Dewey.
Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas.